I was talking to my friend Carson Mitchell the other day. He told me how he feels like he looks foolish lifting weights because he only has access to resistance bands. I guess when we think of lifting, we think of dumbbells, barbells, and machines. Bands are probably only brought up with rehab work. He told me that he can't go around telling people that he lifts weights because if they asked him to show them, he would feel foolish showing them the resistance bands. The untrained eye would think that's not real lifting, he's doing pussy junk. He should go out there and get some real weights. He should go to an actual real gym. At the most superficial level, I agree. Lifting a dumbbell looks way more masculine than pulling on bands. The only other negative thing I have about a band is that we can't perform a heavy knee flexion and a heavy hinge, i.e., the squat and deadlift. Most of the time, these movements are programmed in at about a 5 to 8 RM that would call for a weight that can't be provided with a band. Heavy squatting and heavy hinging is my preference. I like the movements. They are not necessary to do. I just like them. So the fact that we can't perform something I like with bands, it's a negative to me. If an other person doesn't like heavy hinging and squatting, then this won't be a negative to them. No lift, no protocol is quote unquote necessary. Oh, and yeah, also you can't bench press, but I feel like heavy barbell bench presses are overrated anyways, and doing push-ups and chest flies at high volumes or frequencies is enough stimulus for the chest. It's hard for me to understand the uninformed eye in lifting weights. They're not totally in the dark, especially with the internet age. We've all seen a gym fail compilation. We've all seen some muscular guy go at surface level about some movement. In my opinion, I think the untrained eye falls into two categories: the compound movement centric folks and the grocery list folks. The compound movement centric folks got introduced to a novice program. Nearly every novice program programs the squat, bench, and deadlift. Even the person that knows nothing will ask me, how much do I bench? How much do I squat? And they'll meet my response with a smug attitude, which is weird because novice programs don't ask people to max out. They don't ask for 1 RMs, doubles, triples. If anything, to be conservative, that's reserved for people who have anywhere up to a year of experience in a movement, and no one trains for a year consistently, let alone give a hoot enough to learn and become autistic interested in a movement. Also, I feel like 1 rep maxing is a real high school football gym culture thing. That's where I heard it on a frequent basis. Looking back, I know 100% that none of those teenagers knew how to program for strength, do a strength block, or even care about understanding the biomechanics of a certain movement. So I guess I can assume that a lot of non-lifters' information is from this said high school football gym culture. Other than some people who have been gym rats since they were 13 years old, who's going to be 1 rep maxing? Yes, there's a value to 1 RMing. Most programs are written out with percentages of said 1 RM, but with experience, we all can somewhat ballpark a 5 RM and an 8 RM, etc. It's absolutely not necessary for some gym enthusiasts to 1 RM as is. It's so rare for anyone to go out of their way and lift, let alone 1 rep max. The danger to 1 rep max: we have to spend weeks, if not months, getting our bodies used to moving in that rep range, and even then, mistakes can happen. We can miss the groove of that lift and boom. We have discomfort at our day-to-day now. At our jobs, social gatherings, we'll have to also stop doing certain movements and lifting or quit lifting altogether, and now there's this junk undertone to lifting because of the injury, and now we get to be the cool boy that gets to put on a veteran facade, inflate old numbers, and warn novices of lifting. But I guess it just sounds cool to a non-lifter. It sounds hardcore. Using resistance bands to do isolation movements, cringe. 1 rep maxing, cool. Lifting to a non-lifter is all about optics and superficial junk. I've had several interactions with non-lifters where they would spit PDFs at my face. They would relay some tidbits they got from the guy that they know that lifts. They'll stand there with a bleeding heart in front of some dogma they overheard the other day, some years ago, so they can kind of sound like they know what they're talking about. It's emasculating to wake up one day all weak, lazy, skinny, fat to fat, no physical prowess, interest, or hobby other than watching some boxing match every other month and think, damn, I really am a weak ass nigga. No, no one will admit they're weak. Nobody that I know lifts weights. Absolutely none of them will admit that they're weak. Absolutely all of them will give me their 2 cents about lifting, though. Hypertrophy, high reps, 8 to 12, protein good, creatine good, pre workout good, leg press 225 good, cardio good. Oh, cool. Write out what a lifting program will look like for the next 6 weeks. They couldn't. They can't just explicitly say what lifting would actually look like in real life on paper. I've had a person who's never performed a set of squats in their whole life tell me I was doing a set of 20 on the front squat incorrectly at 60% of my body weight, that I should be incorporating tempo, that I was resting too long at the top. At the same time, the same person told me I overcomplicate lifting, that I use jargon and rhetoric as a coping mechanism when I should really just be quote unquote lifting hard. I told the same person that lifting isn't hard or difficult or menial thing where I just have to grit my teeth and go through the difficulty and pain. Rather, it's like my favorite video game. They respond with, "Oh, well, you just don't care then. You don't care about actually getting strong and muscular. It's just a video game. It's just something you enjoy. The end game is complete and you're just there frolicking." If anything, I want to get that tweet that Ninja got, and he was like, "Oh, you you saying it's just a game is a cope, right?" Which is another thing. A non-lifter looks at lifting as this brute, difficult, tiring, trialing by the grasp of your bootstraps, grit through this hell type ordeal. Oh, lifters are special. They're tough guys. They get the valor of putting themselves through hardships. How sick. How masculine. It's a cool thought. It's a cool sentiment. But how many people does that get into lifting? Zero. It would be better for society if lifting could be sold as a video game, a cool little physical activity that can be gamified. Sure, we lose the luster of being a tough boy in lieu of a gamer boy, but so what? Let's say I have 4 sets of 8 on the back squat that I had to do twice a week for 5 years. Right now, I can do 235 for a set of 8. If I go for 9, I will fail that rep, no matter what. That's how a set of 8 works. No matter what Jocko Wilcock endorphin rallying spew I decide to conjure in my head, that is my set of 8. If I were giving myself wartime speeches, I would do the set of 8. If I felt whimsical and lighthearted, I would do the set of 8. And if someone had to hype themselves up and feel like a tough boy every time they lifted, then inconsistencies in programming can occur. We can't be hype every day. We're not in moods to lift all the time. Heck, no one's in a mood to lift, or else people would be lifting. How realistic is that the only time we can lift is when our serotonin and cortisol is up to 1,000%? The same goes for being in a caffeinated state. That's not real strength. There's no carryover. The average person may only be in a good mood or warrior mood mode 1 to 5% of their whole life. Are we saying that we can only showcase practice strength in that small of a parameter? I guess it doesn't sound that romantic when I say I can just go at lifting like I'm playing Minecraft. It sounds way cooler to be in beast mode at the gym. I can do my sets feeling completely indifferent. You have to have a scowl on your face and your heart race. Cool, whatever. No matter how hard you scowl or make your heart race, that set of 8 is all you can do at that very moment. And if you actually could do more, then you were sandbagging in your program. That weight at that set of 8 may be that for days or weeks, just do the set, which brings me to another thing. Novices that delve in only compound centric programs start destroying their form for the sake of adding weight to the bar. We wouldn't want to look foolish now, would we? We wouldn't want to feel weak. If I good morning the squat, I can add 30 to 50 pounds. If I widen my grip and heighten the arch on my back in the bench press, I can add 30 pounds. If I pull sumo, mixed grip, I can add 100 pounds. We start playing the moment, arm, and angle game instead of utilizing the bar path, stretch specific muscles eccentrically and concentrically. All for what? Because we're a powerlifter now all of a sudden? Powerlifters compete. What's the point? Even with all of that angling, we wouldn't place anywhere in a local meet, let alone state or nationwide, because an other novice or non-lifter will think that number is neat. Pulling 400 conventional seems okay to a non-lifter. Crap number to an actual lifter. But I'd rather be doing my snatch grip stiff legs at 185 for 6, or my clean pulls at 175 for 6. 350 on a squat would be okay to a non-lifter. I'd rather do 285 with my legs shoulder width, toes slightly out, and going ATG without a belt, wraps, or shoes. Side note, nearly every squat I see over 300 pounds in those commercial gyms are above parallel. If they were to bring that weight to actual death, they would die. In summary, this non-lifter or non-novice is compound-centric. They're fed squat, bench, deadlift dogma on how important those lifts are, and they're the biggest bang for your buck. Even though if you were to program this way for years, the arms, shoulders, back thickness, and posterior as a whole, and abs would be lacking, calves as well, forearms. They get caught up in adding weight to the bar, so they compensate by making their form less about developing muscularity and strength, and more about angling the body to where the weight moves. They tout 1 rep maxing, even though less than 1% of the population would benefit from it, but darn it, doesn't it make them look cool and tough, because that's what's important as well. It's important that you know they're going through a trial by fire via barbell. This is funny because I'm allotting that this novice non-lifter has a grasp on these concepts and whatnot, but more than likely they know way less than this, and honestly the average non-lifter just kind of knows that lifting has a general sense of difficulty and that they don't do it. Or they're the second type of non-lifter novice, which is the grocery list guy. We met that guy earlier. The guy that told me I should be doing a 5-second tempo on a set of 20 on front squats, 60% of my body weight. That's a nice thing to list. It sounds good, and it stops there. As just looking nice on a piece of paper. That individual would never go out of their way and do a set of 20 on front squats at 60% of their body weight and do a 5-second tempo with no rest at the top. But it sounds good. It makes for a good list. A person, unasked, unwarrantedly, told a group of people that putting on a heavy backpack and going for a 20-mile hike was a good way to build calves. That sounds good. Put that on the grocery list. It stops there. How is an active lifter currently working a program supposed to incorporate that? Let's say they're already doing some kind of split. They're willing to put in 4 days a week. A person could surely get sets of vertical, horizontal pressing, vertical, horizontal pulling, a heavy squat, and a hinging. Include isolations for arms, shoulder, back, abs, and honestly, this is quite a bit of workload for the average person. Suffice to say, even they were to frequent specific movements or cut the volume on specific lifts without even accounting for prehab work, stretching, and cardio. But this person who put on their backpack and did a 20-mile hike has no program in mind, let alone another person's program in mind. He just happened to one day go for a hike and felt like a good boy for being physically active and decided to announce that on a forum. I've had people tell me do boxing. That's it. Yeah, you know, that thing you have to drill for at the very least an hour, 3 to 5 times a week, along with another hour or so of sport-specific conditioning. Yeah, just do that, along with your dumb lifting. How stupid is lifting when we can become Muhammad Tyson and hope to God that whatever altercation we get into, the other person doesn't have a gun, weapon, or there's multiple people, or if they just wrap us up and wrestle us onto the ground and our striking has no, capability to fight that. That's just power fantasies, but that's another video. This, the same person said I should get cleats and do agility drills. Like, sure. And I know to a non-lifter I sound stupid. People might think, yeah, well, why not do that? Agility good, not doing the bad. I guess for one thing, my program has synergy. Every lift or movement flows into the next one pretty well, as do my days, my weeks, i.e. upper day, lower day, snatching clean day, repeat, then rest. Upper day flows like shoulder press into snatching, into rows, into bench press, into a giant set of isolations for the shoulders and arms. Lower day flows into squats, into heavy hinges or a light hinge, then into a giant set of isolations. I account for lesser intensity when I up the volume and vice versa. I account for additional frequency when certain body parts feel pretty recovered. But just put on some cleats in the middle of all that and do agility drill, because agility good. From a glance, I see little to zero carryover of that onto what I want, which is a bigger squat and a snatch. Same thing with walking 20 miles with a backpack in the middle of the week. At surface level, it just sounds good. Don, this nigga hiked for 20 mile with 50-pound backpack on the back. Don, nigga, wow. Yeah, put that on your imaginary list, not in your program, and looks at me with discernment for not implementing it in my actual program, and feel good about yourself because it's in your imaginary program. These people always put tough sounding things in their imaginary program grocery list. Hey yo, back in the Marine Corps, we had to suck 50 miles of fucking dick before we had breakfast and 1,000,000 pull-ups and 1,000,000,000 push-ups, bro. I wrote a program for you. You will be shitting actual human poop out of your ass super hard to the point where it would hurt, bruv. Cool. I'll do my squats and see myself progress weekly, monthly, annually, while you sit there getting fatter and weaker, jerking off to your list of masculine things to do. All in all, lifting isn't a popular interest, so people aren't going to know anything about it. But people feel insecure about not knowing about lifting, so they become the grocery list guy or the compound-centric guy, and they're easy to see and spot, and I won't entertain myself with them unless I want to. But I know inherently that I'm just emasculating them. I'm just there sounding like a jerk-off, sounding obnoxious and pretentious. They're not going to learn anything, but at the very least, if I'm having fun doing it, then whatever. At the same time, I'm not going to walk anyone down just because they have some quip they want to spew about lifting. My peers think I'm like that because they happen to hear, an occurrence here and there when I did, but fail to see the hundreds of other instances where I just kept my mouth shut and let dumb shit be said without retorting, because I know I just sound obnoxious, I sound pretentious. If someone were explaining hanging a window incorrectly and the person was corrected, the correct person wouldn't be obnoxious, but I do with lifting. I'm so knowledgeable, experienced, I do lifts that call for crazy amounts of mobility and strength and know-how, but hey, when I'm shirtless sitting on a chair facing a webcam, I look like I have tits. My strength doesn't meet their standards, my aesthetics don't meet their standards. No way in the heck do they meet their own standards. Every time I'm met with this person that shames me for not meeting their strength and aesthetic standards, it's some faceless person anyways. I'll ask them to upload their lifts and they never do, to the point where I don't ask anymore, because doing that just opens up to this weird discourse of how they don't have to prove anything or whatever. Right, and I don't have to provide the benefit of the doubt, so I don't care. I get it. My physique is lacking. I don't meet strength standards. I see women who weigh 20 pounds lighter than me do way crazier things than me. I see people who've only been lifting for a year or so look way better than me. All this is true, and I understand. So I take my little white pill and say, well, hey, I'm lifting today, and I'll be lifting tomorrow, next week, next month, next year, next decade. And these 5 years of lifting, I've seen and felt changes. So surely in these spans of time, I'll see more. I also have a toxic voice that says these guys talking poop on me couldn't do one rep going all the way down on a squat with 200 pounds on their back. Their body doesn't even have the capacity, mobility, strength to hit the depth of a position, let alone 200 pounds on their back. I did it for 21 reps at 170 pound body weight. I am stronger than you. It sucks to hear. It feels lame to say, but I'm way stronger than a non-lifter. And the non-lifter's response is, well, if I actually lifted, I would be stronger than you. How do you know that? The best, most expensive coach out there can't project someone's progress, but Groceryless Boy has it all figured out. No one's promised an amazing physique and the capacity to execute dope feats of strength just because they lift. They'll spin their wheels. I know so, because lifting has never been an interest to this person. In this moment of spite against me, it is, but that goes away, and now they're stuck, going into a building, doing some movements, then quitting. Only then will they see the value of me being autistic, the value of naturally gravitating to learning, observing, trial and erroring the lifts and programming. Until then, it's just labeled pretentious, obnoxious, and a cope for not being sexy and strong enough. I see people all the time spin their wheels. Don't get me wrong, people spin their wheels. I get accused of it all the time. It's their biggest slight at me, their biggest insult. I was squatting 265 for 1RM in January. I'm doing 285 1RM now. Most of my isolations are up. My pulls are up. I'm seeing objective progress, and I'm still met with that same sentiment. Meanwhile, I see plenty of people digressing from past numbers, or people that just don't track at all. No recording, no accounting for form degradation or establishment of an optimal form to begin with. But hey, they went into the gym building and felt hot for an hour, so they should be compensated in hypertrophy, right? $30,000 the most on 5 years, douche. All I'm saying is my friend feels foolish for lifting with only resistance bands. I feel foolish for lifting, period. I'm even told by rational people, some of them my e-friends, that I'm foolish for lifting. They're saying I'm a fool as I'm executing movements they'll never be able to perform even if their life depended on it. I'm being told I'm a fool even when they buckle down and tell me they want to. I'm being told I'm a fool even when they buckle down and tell me they want to get into lifting, and I sit there with them, forming a program with them, directing them the videos about said programming and whatever lifts they might want to envelop. I'm being called a fool after all the trial and error I've been through regarding lifting. I've trialed the gen pop science stuff, strength blocks, hypertrophy blocks, antagonist, protagonist training, circuit training, supersets, giant sets, mobility drills for months and end, learning the snatch, 5-3-1ing, linear progressing, wave loading, funnel loading, intensity-centric training, i.e. triples, doubles, singles every day, squat every day, countless hours of observing my own recorded lifts, crying over the ratio of hip and knee flexion. If anything, it adds fuel to their insult that I've been lifting for a length of time, 5 years. First 2 years on some squat, bench, deadlift junk, no isolations. 2 years total of being in a deload due to a surgery messing up my shoulder that left me wonky for months, a lower back pump from hell for months, other miscellaneous things with the hamstrings, quads, being on hard cuts over ab anxiety, though never having visible abs in the first place, as if I just had a perfect 5 years to progress, injury-free. 5 years of knowing everything and starting with optimal programming, as if people don't spend months, years on what actually works for them. All I'm saying is, I still feel foolish. Not all the time. It's a fleeting feeling, comes and goes, and maybe the way I feel foolish isn't as vilified as feeling foolish for lifting with resistance bands because that's an easy target. It's easy to say that doesn't look as masculine as using weights, so I don't know. Feeling foolish doesn't stop. All I can do is try to mature and act appropriately when met with that stuff. Also, a tidbit on me lifting for 5 years and not being aesthetic, it would just be cope if I said I didn't care. Even though 95% of the time I think of lifting, I think of my squat and my snatch, I'm just not naturally good at aesthetics. There's people that have abs, delts, arms popping without even trying. They can be at a low body percentage without even trying. For those people, it would be more realistic for them to advertise themselves as an aesthetic directed lifter, leaning into their strengths. I'm 5'6", so certain lifts are just easier for my short body to hit the positions. It would be lame of me to shame some 6' something person that's getting into squatting and being like, oh, that's not ATG, SMH my head. Plus, I spent years not making core work, arm work, shoulder and back isolations a priority, so they're just going to lag behind my traps and my quads. Frog mode physique. While nowadays I am incorporating more isolations frequently, squatting and snatching are still my main priority, and no calling me fat will change that. Plus, I had to understand that even if I am doing isolations more frequently, they're still at the back seat of squatting and snatching, pulling and pressing. Look at my channel. We're on here. Am I preaching about aesthetics? What makes someone look at a guy that uploads mostly squats, hinges, and drones on about said squats and think, man, this guy sucks at bodybuilding? At the end of the day, I feel like a complete fucking loser, a fucking faggot. I feel so fucking stupid. I'm the weakest fucking loser on the fucking faggot planet. I really feel foolish. But whatever, just I'm gonna go lift anyway, so